Hey everyone. I'm not a public speaker, I'm a developer, so forgive me if I struggle through this, right? I'd like to start, I suppose, by saying thank you to the guys, to Rob, Mike, and Xander for running an amazing conference. Really appreciate it, keep it up. And I love the podcast as well, so keep it up, guys. Thank you very much. And thanks for the opportunity to be here. So hey, you're probably thinking, am I just here because we sponsored? Hopefully not. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Peter Coppinger. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Teamwork.com. I also go by the nickname Topper, and like many Irish people, I can't pronounce my H's. So if I say tree, I'm actually talking about a number, right? For those of you who've never heard of us, we make a suite of products to help you run your business. The first product is Teamwork Projects, helps you do all your tasks and project management. The second product is Teamwork Desk. We released it last year. It's a support desk product. It's going really well for us. And the third product is Teamwork Chat, which does chat. And our products are now being used, I'm very proud to say, by over 370,000 companies all around the world, including some of the biggest names in the world. And I'm very, very proud to say that we're now doing over 12 million in annual sales. Thank you. So what's this talk about? I'm not up here to pitch you on our products, but you should probably use our products, right? And I'm not up here to brag in any way because we have a long way to go. In fact, I'm here to do just the opposite because I have a bit of a confession. I am a terrible, terrible CEO. And I'm a terrible CEO because I freaking love programming. Absolutely love programming. It's in my DNA. And my co-founder is also a programmer, and the problem is the two of us have concentrated on product and features almost exclusively to the detriment of everything else in the business. And looking back now, we made just about every mistake in the book. And I'm hoping that today that I can share our story and all the mistakes we made along the way, and hopefully that'll resonate with some of you, and you can avoid making the same mistakes we did, and you'll get to 10, 12 million much faster than we did. So the story is broken up into three phases. There's a pre-launch when we were a consultancy, and then there's growing to 1 million MRR, and then there's kind of the third phase where I suddenly realized that I actually need to be the CEO. You can't be just a programmer when you get to 10 million in scale, and we had a lot of process problems. So part one is what I like to call the hamster years, and you'll see why in a minute. So back in 1999, when the blink tag was cool, right? Myself and a buddy, Cormac, started a web development agency called Digital Crew. And we thought that 3,000 for a website was insane, and that we could churn out 4 websites a week, and that we would be millionaires, right? So it turns out you can't, and we didn't. And it took us a long time to realize this, right? So fast forward 7 years-ish, and we were like this hamster. We were like working hard and getting nowhere, right? And we were also completely broke. And we had a really good reputation, and we were working 60+ hours a week, and we just couldn't figure it out, right? One day, Cormac, the guy who started with me, turned around and he said, I can't do this anymore, I'm heading to Australia. And Dan, my other co-founder, who had joined us a year later, he was the only other guy I'd met who also had a similar love of programming. The two of us were left running the business. And I remember saying to Dan, it was 2006, I remember saying to Dan that, look, let's give this 12 more months, try and turn it around, and if something doesn't give, let's just pack this in, right? I'll just share with you 2 little side stories. We actually did try something called cftagstore.com, where we sold software components to developers. And the huge problem with this is, number one, developers are miserable. They don't want to pay for anything, right? And the second problem is, the market was just tiny. We were selling Cold Fusion software components to tiny little market. And we spent 4 years kind of struggling on this. I think we made 100,000. So the key lesson here is target a big market. Another thing we tried, we made software for a local college in our city. And they encouraged us to turn it into a product. They told us there's a huge market here. And for years, I hauled my ass all over Europe trying to sell enterprise software. And what I learned is building enterprise software sucks, and selling it sucks even more. So that business is still there, but I personally got out of it. Really happy to be out of that space. So it was 2007, January 2007, and we'd said we were giving it 12 more months. So I took a good hard look at the business, and I realized we had two major problems. The first one was that we simply weren't making enough money. And the second problem was that we were completely disorganized. So with nothing to lose, we just, January 2007, we had a lot of business, right? We were doing a lot of work. We just doubled our prices. Just instantly, instead of charging 100 an hour, we were like 200 an hour, doubled our prices. And the other thing is we started charging for all the feature creep and extras. And here's the shocking thing. Nobody complained. And suddenly, our consultancy was actually making money. So I'd highly encourage anyone here, consultancy, if you're tipping away, just experiment, try doubling your prices and see what happens, and totally avoid feature creep. So we solved one problem. The next problem was that we were disorganized, right? So we had a whiteboard in the corner of the office. And that was our project management. We decided that isn't a very good project management system, right? So we had heard of a few online project management systems, and I know everybody says this story, right? We really did make teamwork.com to scratch our own itch. I know everybody says that, but it's actually true. So here's what happened. We tried every project management app out there, and they all sucked, right? So we went with the market leader. So at least they're the market leader. There must be something in there. And after using it for a couple of weeks, we were like, dude, this is terrible. You can't even put, like the big thing for me was you couldn't put a due date on a task. And you also couldn't attach a file to a task. We were like, how is this so popular? This is really, really terrible. You just could not use this to run your business. There's some tasks that don't need to be done for a month. Some tasks don't need to be done for 2 months, and they're all just listed together. It was pretty terrible. So that wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back. The straw that broke the camel's back was that I emailed their support, and I said, guys, if and when might you be considering releasing due dates on tasks? And here's the thing. The response I got back was so curt and dismissive that it really pissed me off. I was going to war. So I turned up for coffee the following Monday. Myself and my co-founder meet for coffee every morning. And I said, Ted, because we call each other Ted for some reason. I don't know how this happened. I said, he's Dan, right? I said, I've been thinking, we could make a much, much better product here. There's a huge gap in the market. And you know what? We could actually maybe treat our customers with a bit of respect and listen to what they have to say. And here's the funny thing. He said, Ted, I've been thinking the exact same thing. So that's part one. I suppose key takeaways here are consultancy sucks, right? Just start your product as soon as you can. If you are going to stay in consultancy, try doubling your prices. It worked for us. Next thing, I can't see that. Don't target a small market. That's obvious. Don't sell software components to developers. That's my own personal feeling, right? Consultancy where sucks, and it's no fun to build or sell. And treat your customers with respect. I think every business could this is pretty obvious, right? Treat your customers with respect and listen to their suggestions. We would never have gone to war if the other guys had done that. Sometimes you got to go with your gut, right? So that's part one. Part two, if you build it, they will come, right? So we were still running our consultancy, and we had this idea, and we wanted to get the product off the ground. 5 weeks later, we hadn't done a single line of code. We had done no design. It was going nowhere because we were just too busy with the consultancy work. So we eventually decided that the only way this is going to get off the ground is if we dedicate 1 day a week, Fridays, to working exclusively on teamwork projects. And it was the best decision we ever made. So no matter how much pressure was on, how much the clients were screaming for stuff to be done, we just said no, and we looked after ourselves. So we worked on our product every Friday. And that decision worked really well for us. And I'd recommend any of you here who are kind of have an idea and are thinking about it, I'd recommend you go with that approach. Just 1 day a week. We often worked all weekend on it as well. And every opportunity we got, and slowly, over a couple of months, the product came together. So how did we design the product, right? We did everything you could possibly do wrong. First thing we did, we opened our code editor, and we said, new project. And we just started hacking, right? We did absolutely everything you could possibly do wrong. We didn't sketch it on paper. We didn't design it. I think the only thing that saved us is that at this point in our consultancy, we'd probably built 50 to 100 web apps for other people, right? So we had that experience behind us. And I suppose also we knew exactly what we wanted. So I would recommend that you definitely do not do this. Our product could have been much stronger had we actually, designed it. When we did design our second and third project, we actually, did it right. We mocked it out on paper. We used balsamic mock-ups. We put it all together. Then we did the final screens. And kind of only then we started coding. So yeah, please learn from my mistakes. One thing we did right, though, is we dog food our product pre-launch for about 2 months every single day. And that's, all the little annoying little issues in the product, things were coming up too slow, text was too crappy. We kind of filed away all those rough edges. And that's something we still do today. We are probably the biggest users of our suite of products, or at least one of the biggest users. And when something annoys the shit out of us, we just dive into the code and we fix it, right? So I highly recommend that. One thing we actually did right. Now, when it came time to picking a domain name pre-launch, could it be bloody worse than teamworkpm.net? Holy shit. This kind of shows how much we knew about marketing, right? So we knew we wanted to call the product Teamwork. We'd had a previous kind of thing called Teamwork CMS that we built. I know, it just evolved. But we tried to get teamwork.com. Turns out the guy wanted 20 million on for it. So more on that later. So we went to teamworkpm.net. What the hell? In hindsight, we should have just bought getteamwork.com, which I just checked yesterday, and I think it's actually available. So yeah, we were pretty terrible. And then when it came time to launch the product, we also did absolutely everything wrong. So after months of hard work, October 4th, 2007, we hadn't put up a launch web page, pre-launch web page. We hadn't taken emails. We hadn't consulted any potential customers. We hadn't generated any PR. We didn't send a single email about the product. After 5 or 6 months of hard work, 8 o'clock, Thursday, October 4th, myself and Dan pushed the button, the website went live. It was the worst product launch in history. And looking back now, why did we make no effort to get publicity for the product? And I think it's because the two of us are developers, and we always had this kind of mindset that the product's not quite there. It didn't have a couple of features we wanted. It wasn't quite as polished as we would like. And looking back now, that was an absolutely huge mistake, because the product did the job, right? And it was better than a lot of our competitors, but we just didn't feel it was where we wanted it to be. So please don't make that mistake. Get PR for your product and launch it right. So yeah, Monday morning rolled around. We just launched the product, and we had to face back into the drudgery of real work. So again, we just kept going Monday to Friday, working on our product, working on everything else but our product, and Fridays, working exclusively on teamwork.com. So let's talk about marketing. As you can probably guess, we did zero marketing. So we had this silly kind of mindset looking back now that if you build it, they will come. That if we add just one more feature, that feature is going to be a magical feature that is going to get us loads and loads of business. Complete lunacy looking back. The best product doesn't necessarily win, right? Now, we were lucky in a way because in the project management space, people will try every other product out there. And because we had a couple of strong features like recurring tasks, task templates, and advanced privacy, we did get a little bit of traction. But we were pretty terrible. So please market your product from day one. Rob's talk in Barcelona last year where he talked about positioning. Is this not going on? Here we go. Really resonated with me. So he talked about how important it is to position your product right, to stand out in the marketplace, especially a saturated marketplace like project management, right? So if you looked at our messaging back 2 slides ago, it was like, project management made easy. Holy shit, that is just terrible, right? Because if you use words like easy, most full-featured, most powerful, these are all bullshit words that mean nothing to the customer. You got to find some way to position yourself in the market. And looking back now, if I could do it again, we'd definitely put a lot more effort into this. We probably still have a bit of work to do on our current positioning. So please, don't make that mistake. So it wasn't all bad. We did 3 things right. We built a great product. We treated every single customer like an honored guest. And we really listened to their suggestions. And sometimes we would just blow them away. They'd hit us with a really good suggestion, and we'd be like, oh, we never thought of that, that's really good. And we'd crank it out in 2 hours, and we would just blow them away. All right? We've got a customer for life then, all right? And in terms of marketing, we did some tiny little bit of stuff right. We set up a referral scheme, which again is all just programming, right? And what the hell was the other thing? We did a newsletter, monthly newsletter. Oh yeah, and we made an importer from our biggest competitor. And those things in the long term worked out really well, right? So we weren't completely terrible, just 99.9%. So yeah, there we were, 2007, launched the product. In our first month, despite doing no marketing and being listed only in the bowels of Google on page 84 or something, right? Somehow we magically got 3 customers. No idea how. And we made $181 in that first month. And you imagine after 6 months of work, that's pretty depressing, right? So you imagine how much more depressing it was a year later. So after like 18 months of work, we made a grand total of, what was that, $13,000 after 18 months work. But we kind of considered this our side project. This is our pizza money project. Every bit of money, we kind of enjoyed working out. We needed this product to run our consultancy anyway. So we never really stopped to think about maybe we should abandon this idea. It slowly started getting traction. Year 2, we got to 100,000. It took us 3 years to get to the magic number, 30,000 MRR. So really, really slow growth. But as we got there, I suppose we started working 2 days a week in the product, 3 days a week in the product, 4 days a week in the product. And eventually, we got to what we consider our magic number. 30,000 MRR was the number we decided we needed to be able to fire our consultancy. And that would give us like enough money to pay the wages of a couple of staff that we had, to pay for the office and have a nice healthy buffer there, right? And to go all in on this. So 3 years in, we finally got the 30,000 MRR, and we needed to get rid of this bloody consultancy. That was just like a noose around our neck. So we went looking for a buyer. And the price we had to buy our existing client book, because we had a really good reputation. Digital Crew was the company, really good reputation in Cork, Ireland. We found another consultancy, and we said, would you take this business off us? They said, yes, how much? They were willing to pay a bit of money for it. We said, it's free. Just please don't drop the ball. Just look after our clients. Because we'd built up a good reputation, and we'd built up a lot of trust with these guys. So we handed the entire book of clients over to these guys, and that actually worked really well. So then we had the shackles of consultancy freed, and we were able to double down on product. Just a little side note here. Just a little side note on self-funding. We never even stopped to consider that taking money was an option. It was just not something that was kind of in vogue back then. It wasn't as popular, and I suppose being in the south of Ireland, we were just like cut off from investment and all this. Just never occurred to us. I also feel that, okay, there's probably 1 out of 100 companies probably should take money, but in my personal opinion, I hate it when I see developers looking for 200,000 to get their product off the ground. Dude, just work in McDonald's and work on your product at nighttime. Here's the thing, it has never, in the history of mankind, right, been cheaper to make software. So when we bought our first server, like a dedicated server, it cost us $23,000 plus hosting. And nowadays, you can get that exact same server for $100 a month with Amazon, right? And that brings me to another little side story I got to tell you about. So we were starting to get a bit of traction in the company now. We're doing $300,000 a year, and we're doubling down on this, and the product's getting better and better. We're still doing no marketing, but I got to tell you about Hell Night. So what was that, August 2012. I was just about to turn in for the night. I was up programming late again, about 1 o'clock, and I reloaded Teamwork, and holy shit, nothing was coming up, right? The whole thing was down. And that sense of panic kind of settles in. And I was freaking out. I was like, holy shit. So like we were hosting with a huge company over here on the East Coast that I won't mention. But I'm panicking. I'm calling our account representative there. He's not answering his phone. I'm calling the company switchboard. They're not answering the phone. I'm emailing them. There's no answers. Meanwhile, tweets and emails are flooding in. I am shitting myself. I'm close to tears. I can't get through to my co-founder. I sat there for 8 hours. I hit the refresh button maybe 1,000 times over the next 8 hours, right? And it was just a horrible experience. So lesson learned there, I highly recommend that you go with someone like Amazon Web Services, right? Over the next 2 months, we vowed in the morning when we finally came back in line, never again. And we packed everything up over 2 months, and we slowly moved it all over to Amazon, and it's been a great decision for us. Some other mistakes we did is looking back now, because we were just heads down, working on code all the time. We suddenly realized one day, holy shit, we're trying to do too much with too few people. And we had the money in the bank, we just weren't using it, right? So we suddenly realized that hiring had become our single biggest problem. The only way we hired was we would randomly, accidentally meet somebody, and if they were a good fit, we'd say, hey, do you want to come on board? We didn't even put up a jobs page. We were just terrible. We did everything wrong, right? So please think about hiring early. And I suppose as we got bigger as well, we didn't hire we're at 63 people now. We only hired a HR person last year. So looking back, if any of you, when you get to that stage, maybe think about hiring a HR person, 35 people, 40 people mark. Another mistake we made is we didn't have a marketing team until maybe 3 years ago. And looking back now, that was just a completely terrible, terrible decision. Like, how many of you heard of teamwork.com 3 years ago? I see like 10 hands. And there you go. We were building an amazing product that I'm very proud of. People were just accidentally stumbling on us, and we just weren't shouting about it or getting the word out there. It was just a terrible decision looking back. Another mistake we made is we didn't build a sales team until 6 months ago. It's just, Emmett back there is the head of our sales team. And in 6 months, the difference Emmett and his team have made to the company is monumental. So after this conference, we're actually going up to meet a huge enterprise customer in LA. And I have no excuse for not doing this, apart from, again, I wasn't being the CEO. I had my head down in code for far too long. So please learn from our mistakes. So yeah, we kept writing the long, slow SaaS rampant debt until we finally hit $89,000 a month recurring in December 2011, 50 months after we launched teamwork.com, or teamworkpm.net, I should say. So the key takeaways here, I suppose, are, look, make the time. If you're thinking about it and you keep putting it off, just make the time to start your product. There is never a better time to start your product than today, right? Start with the research and design, not the code. Launch it right. We did everything wrong. Learn from us. Positioning, you got to stand out, be different in your market. You got to fire your day job and go all in as soon as possible. And eat your own dog food, right? That's essential. Use your own product every day. I know that won't work for everyone, but if you possibly can, use your own product every day. AWS hosting for the win, and continuous marketing from day one. And yes, you do need a sales team. I know there's a lot of kind of thought in this industry that the product will sell itself. I think I've learned the hard way that no, there's a lot of benefit to having a sales team as soon as you got something tangible to sell, right? So that's part 2. And the next part I'm going to tell you about kind of the evolution of the company and about my personal evolution as growing up as a CEO. So we had a hockey stick event, which is, dream. So we were riding the long, slow SaaS ramp at that. And can anyone guess what the hockey stick event was? No. We were teamworkpm.net, remember? And now we're teamwork.com. So acquiring teamwork.com completely turned the company around for us, which is interesting in itself, right? Here's the story of what happened. So back when we launched the company, when we were pre-launch, I reached out to the guy who owned teamwork.com, and I got this pretty crass reply back, right? So, hello, I've never heard of your organization, so I was surprised to receive your inquiry. I haven't offered to sell this domain name, so there is no asking price. We currently use this domain, and our continued use is anticipated. That's complete bullshit, right? He was just squatting on the name. Purely as a generic term, I feel the value of this domain name is comparable with these reported transactions. All right, so I clicked the link. Holy shit, sex.com went for 13 million. Injure.com went for 16 million. So this guy was probably looking for like between 6 and 20 million for teamwork.com, right? So we just kind of, that was back when we launched, we just kind of forgot about it. It was a pipe dream. So tried again the following year, got this just one-line reply back. We already talked, go away. So one night I'm in the bar. And my girlfriend goes to the toilet and she's taking too long. And I'm thinking, I'm just thinking, God, I'd love teamwork.com. I'm a few pints in, so I just shot the guy an email again saying, would you sell it for 100,000? And you can see his reply back here, which is same lowball offer, no thanks, right? I was like, screw this guy. So I hit him again, so please make me a counter offer. And I think this guy must have been in a bar somewhere as well, because he just shot me back straight away. Must have been after a few drinks. I'd consider 675,000. And that might sound like a lot of money, but I actually nearly wet myself with excitement. I was like, this guy is fucked up, right? So yeah, I was like, shit. So I immediately accepted the offer, right? So I sent him, the next day, I sent him this email. I said, all right, he might change his mind. I got to be careful in my wording about it. I pretended we had a board, right? Pretended we were organized. And I was like, yeah, we accept your offer. It's our final offer or whatever, hoping that he won't, try and play hardball. And after accepting his offer, then I went to my co-founder and I said, hey, what do you think about buying teamwork.com? He was like, no fucking way, dude. That's like I said, look, he'll sell it for 675,000. He was like, that's every penny we have in the bank. He's like, how about we go buy 2 Aston Martins instead? He's like, it's a fucking domain name, right? So I then gave him what I call my Martin Luther King speech. I'm like, we only live once. I don't want to look back when we're 80 years old and regret not doing this. And he was like, fuck it, all right, go on. Let's do this. So I said, I did it yesterday. So here's the thing. Did it make a difference? Did it make a difference? Hell yeah. Boom. Can you see that? I think is that in the wrong place? Yep, that's in the wrong place. Yeah, that's meant to be pointing at January 2014. How did this happen? When we launched the domain name, right? We literally had the hockey stick event. We could see it a year later that it had paid for itself in 1 year. And since then, we've been kind of on a rocket, right? So we've also had a really strong product with terrible, terrible marketing. And now we finally had not only a good domain name, but I suppose it gave us a kind of brand identity. And it allowed people to kind of like have that instant credibility and trust. So yeah, that's what I recommend. Go out and buy a domain name for 675,000. So the next part of the story, I just want to talk a little bit about me personally. You can see all the mistakes we made were because we just had our heads down programming. And had I actually stopped to be the CEO every now and again, we probably would have got to 12 million in revenue a lot earlier, I think. So let me tell you a little kind of embarrassing story. Just 2 years ago, I headed off to New York for 6 months, and I worked night and day on our new product. And yeah, 6 months later, we had a new product, and we had a sexy new engine for future products. But when I looked up from the code, I was like, holy shit, our company's a mess. Right, back in Ireland, we were now up to, I think, 45 people. Our culture was completely undefined. We had all these process problems. Nobody in the company could tell you what our vision was. It was just, there was so much going, we were doing well, but there was so much going wrong. And I kind of was, why is it such a basket case? And I kind of realized, holy shit, it's my job. I'm not doing my job, right? That's the problem. And it's my job to help establish the culture, to put the processes in place, to set the vision for the company. It's this like eureka light bulb moment. So I've kind of been I still do a lot of programming, right? If I'm totally honest with you. And I know I need to do less and kind of set the vision for the company. But I have made steps to try and fix some of the issues in the company, and we've come a long way, I think, in 2 years. The first thing we had to do was have regular meetings. Everybody hates meetings, right? But if I could just recommend that you have 4 meetings a year, 4 times a year, get out of the office, go somewhere different, and just identify your top 5 problems in the company and what you're going to do to fix them. That is it. That's the one set of meetings you need. And if we had done that earlier, we would have realized that we need a HR person, that we have hiring problems, We don't have a jobs website. Our marketing is terrible. We don't have a jobs sales team. And we would have fixed all this much, much sooner if we had just done that one simple thing. So please, again, learn from my mistakes. Setting the vision. So when we had our first quarterly offsite meeting, I very nervously shared my vision with my co-founders about where I would like to see us take the company. And once I got buy-in from them, like that first meeting was actually really awkward because we'd never done this kind of offsite thing before. And we kind of felt like this is what proper companies do. And here we were kind of pretending to be like a proper company. So I nervously shared my vision with the guys. And once we got their buy-in, I suppose, I've realized it's my job to keep reiterating the vision of the company to everybody in staff at every chance we get. And we have this huge vision for where we're taking the company by 2020, as you can see here. Next thing, tried fixing was sculpting our culture. So as I said, it was a bit of a mess. This kind of like developers versus everyone else kind of culture had slightly crept in. And I think that's because myself and Dan are developers, and maybe we put developers up on the pedestal a little bit. But we set about over the next 2 years, we've done a lot. We put a happiness officer in place, and we've done a lot to kind of fix that. Just like nights out, simple little things like in our company manual, we have a page, don't be a dick, right? And these things actually do help. Number one rule, don't argue over instant messaging, right? We learned the hard way. Next thing we fixed is the process problems in the company. So just silly little things like, now that we weren't 15 people in the same little location, that we were spread out around the world and over 2 floors in Cork, just communication became an issue. So for example, the marketing team and the support team did not necessarily know what the product team guys were working on. And they were like, we kind of want to have input on the features that the guys are working on. So it's pretty easy once you realize that you need process to put these processes in place. So a very simple fix is that the head of marketing, the head of support, and the head of each product, they just meet for half an hour every month, and they talk about what features we should work on next. Very simple. Next thing is I think what held me back from being a good CEO for years is that I kind of thought that the CEO needs to have all the answers, right? And I thought, like, I'm not really CEO, I'm not sure how to fix this, I'm not sure how to fix that. That's just being very honest with you, right? And I think I've kind of realized that the CEO doesn't have to have all the answers. And that's kind of a huge realization for me. And trusting others and letting go, because I'm a programmer, Dan's a programmer, and we've traditionally done every last thing in the company ourselves. It's been very hard for us to relinquish the reins to other people, especially, we might think we'll do a better job, but you just have to learn to trust others and leave go, and I'm sure that'll be very hard for a lot of people in this room. Finally, just something that we've experimented with in the company this year. In January, we switched to being an open book management company, which means all our figures are laid bare to all our employees. Every single employee can see exactly how much revenue we're earning. It's a bit of a ballsy move, and it wasn't done lightly. But it kind of complements the great game of business, which, if you haven't heard of it, it's a system for running your company where you encourage every employee to think like an owner. And in exchange, you give them part of the success. So we set targets for the year, and if we hit those targets, every employee in the company has the potential to double or triple their wages, which is huge, right? So it's you can check it out at thegreatgameofbusiness.com. I bumped into a guy in Boston last year who told me about it. It blew my mind. I highly recommend you check it out. It's a huge experiment for us. Not sure if it'll work yet, but my gut says it will. So the key takeaways again, be the CEO. Buy a domain name for $675,000, so it should be there. Hold quarterly meetings, set the vision, establish your culture. Culture is going to happen in your company, whether you like it or not. You can choose to let it evolve, or you can choose to define your culture. I highly recommend you choose the latter. Establish processes. You don't have to have all the answers, and trust others and let go, right? And try the great game business, it'll work for you. And last slide, I'll leave you with this, because I love this phrase, and it's kind of always found as inspiring, even though I'm sure you all heard it before. But be so good they can't ignore you. Thank you for your time.
So, Destrina talked about this point that you can start small with a simple message. You obviously didn't start that way, but this question is about looking back. If you could have gone that route. Considering that you were building a project management tool, you did spend 6 months building it. Could you have gone the other way that people talk about, like we did it over a weekend, we built something and set it out? Would you have been able to sell that? A project management tool itself needs there are some expectations, right? A base set of features without which I wouldn't consider one. So do you think that lean approach would have worked for you looking back?
Do I think what, sorry?
That lean approach would have worked for you looking back. If you could have built something really small, you were talking about maybe just attaching documents to tasks. If you could just release something like that and build from that, would you have been able to follow that same route of success?
I hear you. That's an interesting question. Our first version, I would argue, was pretty lean. It probably wasn't 6 months. It was probably like, we built the first version 2 months, and then we used it ourselves. We were our first customer, I suppose. Could we have released something leaner? Yes, we could have, and we probably should have, right? But we didn't, because I suppose we were looking at the other guys out there, and we knew we wanted to surpass them, and that was our goal. You probably should have released something leaner and simpler. We just did everything wrong, right? So that's it. Anyone else?
Yep, back here. You mentioned that there was a time when you realized that you needed a sales team and there was no way around it.
Where am I looking?
Back here.
All right, sorry.
What was going on at that time that kind of clued you into that being a necessity? And then what did the implementation look like?
The sales team?
Yeah.
Okay, there was a day when Disney emailed us and they said, we've been using your product in stealth for a couple of years and we love it. We were like, holy shit. And they're like, can we have an enterprise version? I think that was a pretty good clue that we needed a sales team, right? It had been something we talked about a long time. It's just that we were too busy, again, building product. I think we always knew we needed a sales team. So we get a ridiculous amount of trials, and we need to do a better job of converting them. People just get stuck. We just should have done it 3 years earlier, to be honest. I suppose the answer is we just knew in our gut we needed it.
I think I'll answer for like a smaller company. We started getting 1, 2, 3 emails a week saying, hey, can you give me a call? I'd love to see a quick demo. That was, it wasn't Disney, but it was very noticeable, people wanting to have a lot of demos.
Hi, good talk. I'm Jonathan. I wanted to ask quickly, you mentioned that the teamwork.com really helped accelerate growth. I noticed that in your website you have dozens of integrations with other services. Mm-hmm. Did that help as well, the growth or retention of your customers?
Absolutely, definitely did help. Every single integration equals X amount of new customers a month. They've been huge for us. And I suppose that's a developer hack, something we were able to do concentrating on being a developer. We always just listen to our customers, so we started getting emails saying, do you guys integrate with Harvest? And we were like, what the hell is Harvest? And we check it out, it's pretty cool. And we just hacked in the integration. So we just kept responding to our customers, listening to their feedback. And yeah, the integrations definitely helped.
You've stepped up as a CEO, but have you developed an executive team to support you?
Yeah, kind of. We still have a long way to go, right? I'm still doing too much programming, and I'll try and do less. Yes, I have a CFO, and Dan is my CTO. Other than that, no, we don't really have a good executive team, to be totally honest. We still have a long way to go.
You mentioned the hockey stick growth after the purchase of the domain name, and we had a similar story, but it wasn't the same effect, obviously. But how do you know that was actually what caused it, as opposed to just you paying more attention as a CEO and doing things like that? Like the culmination of things is what actually caused the growth.
Because I didn't really step up as a CEO for another 2 years. Another year, maybe at least. Anyway, we didn't really add any major features on. We just kept solid working away. That was the only major event that I would attribute to it.
So you think it's just better SEO, or what would
we started getting people. I think it's the credibility. We started getting people writing more articles about us. I think it's kind of the word of mouth effect works as well. Imagine 2 guys in a bar, and one guy says we use teamworkpm.net and it's awesome. The other guy's never going to remember that, right? So there is that kind of word of mouth effect as well. It's just a really strong brand.
Yeah, so you're a really big success. and you've got a really great story. And you're saying that all these things were mistakes, but could it be that they were the right thing to do? That this was your strength of just putting your head down and coding and doing what you knew best?
I think having two co-founders who are both technical did help us create a really strong product, right? So from that point of view, yes. But genuinely, if I could talk to the younger me, I would slap myself around. And I would say, you need to concentrate on this stuff earlier. I'm convinced that we would have got to 12 million a year, 2 years, 3 years ago.
So you talked about not having unique positioning in the beginning. What's the unique positioning that you guys have settled on, and how did you get there?
I was hoping nobody would ask me this, right? Didn't I tell you guys? We're still not great, right? So we kind of do this thing we're all about high performance. High performance teams run on teamwork, because we're now a suite of products. And I was like, how do you position yourself when you're a suite of products? We have this huge ambition that we're going to make a suite of products to run every last part of your company. So you can kind of guess where we're going. We've got 3 big parts of it. The beautiful thing is they all integrate together. It's really strong. We still struggle to get that messaging across. If anyone here has any good ideas, shoot me an email after, please, peter@teamwork.com. So just move on.
Maybe a similar question, but they say like what got us here won't get us there. Maybe from a product standpoint, but positioning and sales and strategy, what do you think will change in your marketing plan or sales plan going forward from here to get you to that $100 million number?
I have no idea. I'd have to ask our marketing guys back there. What's going to change it? We have this really strong thing in that our 3 products actually all talk to each other. And this is something that nobody else is doing. I think we really need to push that messaging more. Enterprise is becoming big for us. We need to kind of push that a bit more. And other than that, I don't have a good answer for you. We're just going to keep experimenting, right? We're just going to keep trying things, experimenting. I actually meant to say in the talk, Gail, if you haven't seen it, Gail Goodman's video, the long, slow SaaS ramp of debt is just mind-blowing, right? Those guys are doing 330 million a year now, and they just kept trying things and experimenting, and we're gonna follow that pattern.
I really enjoyed the talk. I was just wondering, you've been emphasizing the fact that you think you've done a lot of mistakes. Do you think if you had fixed those mistakes while running your consultancy, you would have been, as successful as with the product? Because 12 million is not that of an insane number for a very successful consultancy. So I'm just wondering if you would have, succeeded that way, at least if you think you would have.
Yeah, I think we definitely could have grown our consultancy to be a 100-person consultancy and done some great stuff, right? But here's the thing. Consultancy doesn't make you money while you sleep, right? The money is in products. I don't want to run a 100-person consultancy. That's not fun for me. Maybe that's fun for someone else. We did projects for clients where they wanted red on Monday, they wanted blue on Friday, and it's just torture, right? I just do not want to be in the consultancy business. Making shrink-wrap software is a beautiful thing. If people don't want to buy it, that's fine.
You mentioned that you let culture kind of grow organically until a set point when you decided that you had to take control and do something and set it. What was that point, and what did you do to kind of guide the company culture?
So I think it was the point when I finished working at Teamwork Desk in New York, and it was time to go home. And when I went home, I suddenly realized, holy shit, there's 50 people in the company, and they're all looking to me for direction. And then there was just a lot of pain. People coming to me with different problems, saying that they don't know what the product team is working on. Or even our hiring process. There was like, who has the final decision? Can we hire people from Russia? Will we pay for visas? There was all these decisions that we'd never stop to think about. So we had to fix process. I think definitely the developers versus everyone else culture was pretty apparent. I think the non-developers were pretty pissed off at all the perks maybe the developers were getting and stuff. And I just had people kind of griping to me. It just became really obvious that we had to fix this. Yep.
So you love to code, your co-founder loves to code. Did you at any point consider staying in that role and bringing on a CEO instead of assuming that role?
Shit, that was the other question I did not want. Yeah, people have asked me that in the bar as well. It's not something I would say no to forever. I know Campaign Monitor, I was talking to their CEO in Dublin last year, and he's not one of the co-founders. The co-founders love coding, and they're just hacking on that and doing what they love. It may work, it may be something we do in the future. Here's the thing, finding that CEO who's gonna have your passion, your energy, is really, really hard. If I did find somebody, I would definitely consider it. But also, I think the vision and the leadership needs to come from one of the founders, right? That's it.
We have time for a couple more questions if there are any. One way in the back. All right, give me a second. If I had a joke ready, I would tell one now.
So the guy who had the teamwork.com domain, he was apparently like a total dick. And so I'm curious, like during the sales process, was he still a dick through all that stuff? Like, how did that go?
Actually, no, when we were prepared to give him 675,000, he was quite nice. No, I don't blame the guy. I mean, I think it was just his job, right? I think that they're these guys, cyber squatters, they're sitting on a couple of thousand domain names. He was just waiting. He was probably waiting for Microsoft or someone to snap it up. I think, we got lucky there a bit. He was pretty nice to deal with once he knew we were kind of serious, to be honest. That's it.
Could you talk a little bit more about the great game of business, what that will look like, and why you were motivated to actually place a big bet on that?
Right, the great game of business. So I bumped into this guy in Boston at HubSpot conference last year, and he told me about how he took over a company, implemented a great game of business, totally turned around, and I should check it out. So I did a bit of research over Christmas, and what I found blew my mind. You can check it out at greatgameofbusiness.com. It's kind of traditionally been for more manufacturing companies, but I think it could apply to any company. So it's just about being fully transparent with your numbers, making every employee feel like they're an owner. And already, so we rolled this out in January. It was a bit of a shock to all our staff. Holy shit, they can now see all the figures. They have now the power is in their hands to double their own wages. We don't have to grind on them all the time. And what I've seen is, we've seen say the Teamwork chat team, who just all they care about is making an amazing product. Suddenly these guys are now talking more to the marketing team, and they're like, how can we help you so the overall company will do better? So we've had this great collaboration suddenly start happening between all the different departments. Another part of the great game is that you put up a metrics dashboard in the company that everybody can see. And for every department in the company, you pick the one true metric that really matters. So we've done that, and everybody in the company can see how well or poor that every other department in the company is going. My gut says it's going to really work for us. Already what I've seen so far has worked really well. Another part of the great game of business is that you play these mini games where every team kind of sets a game for themselves. So it might be like, why don't we try and increase signups? So the marketing team might say, all right, we're going to try and increase our conversion rate by 5% over the next 2 weeks. And if we hit this, then they give themselves a reward, and depends. Some games are bigger than others, right? So the reward might be as simple as, let's go to lunch. Or if it's a bigger target, more ambitious target, they might decide, all right, we're going to take a day off and we're going to go to the beach if we hit this target. And it's working really well for us. Now, we don't have all the answers, because people are like, the game, we're kind of working hard anyway. How does this improve it? We're still figuring stuff out, but so far, I feel really good about it.